Booktube, it is Emma from Prairie, and I'm going to be talking to you about my March reads. So, in my last video, I stopped off on Fangirl and 15 Dogs. Now, those two, I believe, were actually March, not February, but that's okay. Great books. Moving on. The Rest of Us Just Live Here by Patrick Ness. That's the book I was reading when I heard about Books and Lala's Borrow-a-thon announcement and got really excited, and now I have 40 books out of the library. Yeah. On top of all the books that were still purchased. Okay. So that one was good. It's kind of making fun of, like, poking fun at all of the YA trope and whatnot that's been going on with those trend books. Anyways, it's about the people who live in that small town in the middle of nowhere who have to deal with these, like, supernatural events and watch these indie kids go running after these creatures and blow stuff up and die, and it's just like another day, and his best friend's a god. So it's just, being the non-chosen one. It's funny. It's good. It's nice and light. After that, I read On Trails by Robert Moore. I've been working on that book for probably 6 to 9 months or something like that, just picking it up and putting it down and biting off little chunks of it at a time. And that book is all on trails in the world and whatnot. It's quite good. After that, I read Alice by Christina Henry, which was that very violent story involving the Alice in Wonderland characters in this very not Wonderland. So that was pretty good, entertaining, not a whole lot of depth to it. It was kind of like very surfacey for me. Like, there was no great depth to the book or to the writing or anything like that. This is just another book, right? Nothing spectacular, but it was, entertainment for that kind of thing. After that, I read An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth by Colonel Chris Hadfield, and I'm a fangirl of Chris Hadfield. I remember when his YouTube video took off, along with, I remember watching William Shatner's feed. I was on the Google+, so of course it's like on the non-populated area of the internet where I was watching these interactions happen. I remember sitting there at my desk being like, I'm watching history right now because William Shatner is talking to Colonel Chris Hadfield, two of my favorite Canadians, talking to each other, one on planet Earth and the other in space. How cool is this? And I just remember watching their conversation go back and forth, being like, I can't believe I'm watching this. Anyways, personal story aside, that's a good book. So, someone who's not a fighter pilot and probably not an engineer, or someone who is maybe not has some super high stress technical job, maybe someone who works at NASA, I wouldn't recommend it for them because they'd be like, this is my everyday. But it's everything that Colonel Chris Hadfield had to go through from youth through to becoming an astronaut. Not just him, but his family, his kids, and what he had to go at, all these requirements that he had to make in order to become an astronaut, and a Canadian astronaut at that, because that's kind of unheard of. Because let's face it, it's like, yay, Canada, we've got Steph, right? We got Steph. Oh God, I represent so well. I'm sorry, Canada. I love you. A Canadian apologized to the rest of Canada. There you go. Anyway, so that's that. I recommend that one. Really good, fascinating, totally awesome, and he's full of dad jokes. Yeah, classic. After that, I read Guide to Lao's Pyongyang for Borrow-a-thon, and that one was quite good. I actually returned that book to my parents and said, hey, Mom, Dad, could you return my library books for me, please? And they're like, yeah, sure. Next thing you know, my dad picked it up. And he read it, and he liked it, and my mom picked it up. So that's crazy. That's so cool. So that says something about that book. It's pretty good. Recommend it, just like I did in the other thing. Next, I read The Girls by Emma Cline. Good book. Still feel dirty. Not because of the writing, just because of the content. Good book. Like, don't get me wrong. It's a good book. Pick it up. Then I read Persepolis, and the graphic novel about the events in Iran, I believe, in the 80s and 90s, and like her perceptions as a little girl. Phenomenal book, and I can't wait to read the next one. It's fantastic. I recommend that one. Badass Librarians of Timbuktu. That was the book that took me totally by surprise, especially because I was like, oh, look at that, it's nonfiction. Oops. So there you go. Then I read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and I'm still totally crushed that I don't absolutely love that book, because Books and Beers, the YYC guy from Instagram, I'll see if I can post his information on my description below, so that you can check him out, because he does really cool photos of his beer and books, and he pairs them up really well. After that, I read Bitch Planet, which is a graphic novel, and it is absolutely fantastic. Not recommended for children at all, of course, because of the content and whatnot. It is a really good read. I highly recommend that one. It is great. Next, I read Faithful by Alice Hoffman, and that book also took me by surprise. But Alice Hoffman worked her usual magic and wrote a very fantastic story about a girl who is recovering from a traumatic event, and how she dealt with it and what she had to go through, and like being committed into a psych ward and not trusting humanity after that, or even herself, and the angel, so to speak, that looked after her. Really, really good. After that, I read Sex Criminals, Volume 1, and that is a graphic novel series about some individuals that when they are reach the point of orgasm, they freeze time. So, and then they discover each other, and then they create all of this. Shenanigans and trouble and whatnot, and then they get busted. So, and that's kind of where that one leaves off. And then after that, I read Daydreams of Angels by Heather O'Neill, and that is a collection of short stories that Heather wrote, and it is, I'm going to make a whole video for that one, but it is quite good. If you liked The Lonely Hearts Hotel or any of her other books, that one I recommend for you, for sure. After that, I read Rogue One, which is basically someone who sat down with the screenplay and filled it in. So they must have sat down with maybe the screenplay and the movie and just filled in the blanks kind of thing. So it's not like J.K. Rowling's The Cursed Child or Fantastic Beasts. It is where they're just kind of screenplays. That one's got all the filler material in it, so it's got like the descriptions and thought processes and whatnot in there. So if you've watched the movie, you might not want to read that, or if you really want to see the movie, you might not want to read that, in case you're just like, wow, this is like it's like watching Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone while reading the book right beside you, kind of thing. And then, after that, I read Sam Keen's The Disappearing Spoon. That one took me a little bit longer to read, just because it was a nonfiction book, and nonfictions for me are so easy to be like, wow, this is really interesting, and they are very interesting, and then, as always, I usually set them down and then forget about them, just like I did with On Trails by Robert Moore. That one I couldn't do because it was part of my Borrow-a-thon reads, so that one I do recommend. It's the stories inside the periodic table of elements, and he did a really good job writing it. I really liked it. I found myself, I was laughing pretty loudly in my lunchroom by myself because I'm a rock star when reading that one, so that was good. I read Lab Girl by Hope Duran. She read the audiobook while I listened, not like, hey Emma, this is Hope. how about I'll read you my story. No, it wasn't like that. Like, yeah, I know you know, but that's how it sounded, and I found that quite amusing. I said that, and I'm just, this is like the 8th time I've tried recording this video, because I'm still terrible. Hats off, booktubers. That one, very good. Totally, like, went straight into my heart, and I totally love it, and I can't wait to recommend it, actually, to my daughter when she's older, because I think it's fantastic, and I think more young girls need to read a book like that. It's pretty good. The Wicked and the Divine, a graphic novel. Read that. I had my eye on that one for quite some time, borrowed it from the library, polished it off really quick. That one I didn't do on Hoopla for a change. And I had actually read a single issue of that before, and I didn't know it. I think it was maybe a teaser or something. Anyway, so I read that, and it was quite good. Really entertaining. Artwork was pretty good. I actually really like one of the characters in there. One of the main characters. I'm quite taken with her. She's pretty awesome. And I recommend that one for anyone who likes reading graphic novels and kind of action stories. Next, I read Three Dark Crowns by Kendar Blake. That is a young adult book, and it doesn't have your stereotypical love triangle and, plain Jane, girl who has doesn't know anything, and the next thing you know, she's, stringing up warlords and battling vampires and stuff like that. It's not that kind of book, so that was really refreshing, and it was actually quite good. I want to read the rest of the books. I don't know if it's going to be a duology or trilogy or a series, whatever it ends up being. I'll read it until it tires itself out, I guess, until I'm done, or whatever. Yeah, it's pretty good. And then I read Low, a graphic novel. I think it was read for the male gaze. However, good things I can say about it. Color palette, very nice. I'm liking that color palette. I am. Some of the artwork is just fantastic. Storyline, so, if you like some color palettes, that would be a good one to, see the color palette of. But there is nudity, lots of nudity, and, yeah, there's some cool art. So their colorist did a great job, and so did their artist. Or if it's one and the same, I can't quite remember. Fantastic. Yeah, but I'm not digging that storyline, and I'm not digging the characters. I get I understand what the writers are trying to do, and I admire that, but they could do better. I know they can. So, but that's just me, and I'm talking about, like, who am I? I'm just, I'm just a reader. So, they're kind of alienating a little bit. Alienating what the book's about. Kind of one of their audiences a little bit. I don't know. Maybe Volume 2 will be better, but because of Volume 1, it's actually pushed that whole series way down on my list. So I don't know if and when I will pick it up, and maybe I'll get around to it. So we'll see. Anyways, that's my March of 2017. Thanks, guys, and I will see you next time.